Hey everyone, welcome back to IT Horror Stories with Jack Smith. I am Jack Smith, and across the table there's Bob.
Hi everyone,
Bob,
I'm Bob.
hey Bob, welcome back. You're slowly getting to be our most featured guest here.
Good to hear.
Good to hear. Good to hear.
Well, as long as the audience agrees with that, of course.
So far, zero complaints. You know, people that like you never tell you it's only the complaints that you get.
True. So 0 complaints, that's a very nice
Absolute
number.
KPI of 0 complaints is green.
Exactly.
Awesome sauce. Bob, I asked you here because we discussed your shadow IT that you had with, was it marketing in episode 9?
I think it was sales.
It was sales, indeed. I wanted to come back on that, as I said back then in the episode. There's many shadow IT things going on, and I would like to pitch in one of my shadow IT experiences here.
Ooh, goody. But
well, expectation level has been set. I get it.
Mm-hmm.
All right. We're back in, how do they call it for the young people these days? The nillies?
Oh, yeah. The early 2000s.
The early 2000s.
Yeah.
When there was no agile, there was no scrum, there wasn't even waterfall, you just did things.
Well, those things existed.
Yes.
But they weren't as omnipresent as they are.
Yeah.
In IT, you just did your thing, and as long as it worked, and everybody was happy.
A can-do mentality.
Yes.
Yeah. So, a can-do mentality, you had sales, I am going for the developers that were, let's say, extremely motivated to get some of their things going in their own little domain.
Yeah.
I was standby for the Windows system. These were my engineering days. So you would do PM and you would do architecture and you would do security, but you had many hats, and officially on your payslip it said senior IT engineer.
Yeah.
So that is what you did. There was a standby system, and I get a call. I believe it was a Thursday or Friday, for argument's sake, and for the story to make more fun, let's call it a Friday.
Usually those types of calls were on Fridays.
It's really cool because I didn't tell you what's coming, but yet you already know what's coming. It's great. I get a call, help desk, hey, our main application is down. And the main application was not a program, but a warehouse. Warehouse full of scanners and printers and sensors and forklifts and everything. And that application or warehouse was no longer moving because the jobs for which Europallet had to go where were no longer getting through to the forklifts.
That's bad.
That's a minor operational issue.
Yeah.
And today your search meeting would be, is this a P1 or a P0?
Most likely it'll be P0 because there are a lot of people twiddling with their thumbs.
Yes, and a lot of truck drivers waiting and going over their hours, and not a good thing. You do your usual checks as you do. Okay, well, do you know the application? No, you know it exists because everybody knows the warehouse. You do your checks on your dashboard. You see, okay, file server is up, print server is up. I see people logged in onto the remote desktop Citrix environment. I see people using their email. I see everything working. I don't know what's going on. I call back. Say, hey, I see nothing wrong. What's going on? Help this guy goes to the operations desk and they come back. Oh yeah, no, it is the main application says it cannot make a connection, and that connection is going to a Windows machine, therefore we call you.
Yeah, of
course, because it's running Windows and it has a power plug connected to it. They call me. Oh, fine. Look over, look left, find nothing. In the end, I get in touch with one of the, not developers, but one of the support people that knew something about those applications. Okay, so what's going on? Yeah, we see here in our status screen that this module is no longer replying, and that module is supposed to be running on that server. Oh, that's a Windows server. You might be correct. Go over there to that server, log in, and indeed, the application was there. It was installed. However, the service was disabled. And if a Windows service is disabled, that's not an automatic process. That's manual. Like somebody switched this off.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, have you tried turning it off and on again? Restart the service through the VPN connection. Nothing happened. Error. Everything stayed down. I'll guess we'll have to come on site because that was the next step and dig deeper, get everybody into the coffee corner and see what you can do. Get my stuff, 45-minute drive, find a parking spot because usually where we could park our car was now a truck dock, but we couldn't park there. So found somewhere in the industrial estate, find a grass field where you hope your car will still be there in the morning.
The joys of being on call and having to go on-prem while on call.
And of course, your parking badge doesn't work at night because you work the day shift.
Exactly.
We get there, we go in, okay, fine, yep, indeed. We try again, we go to that server, we reboot the entire server, we restart the service. Nope, everything is up and running. Check the server, everything is green, like this isn't working. Fine. Can you show me your application log that says it's not working? Oh yeah, but it's not responding. I can see it. Yeah, I know. Show me this. Imagine a wall full of NASA control room type CRT screens.
Mm-hmm.
Every screen showing a small desktop machine that was stuffed away behind it with a monitor screen of one application or one module in the entire application warehouse flow.
So almost a Cape Canaveral type of situation, but on a smaller scale.
On a smaller scale, indeed. And correctly, one of those screens, everything was in red. I guess that's where the problem is. Okay, fine. Like, what is this thing doing? Yeah, this is monitoring this and this and this service, and it says that it cannot reach the IP of that server. It cannot reach the IP ? Yes, it says right here, IP 1234 is unreachable.
Let me guess. The IP address was not the IP address of the server that you actually connected to and that was supposed to run the
Bingo.
application. Of course.
Of course. Even better, that was a user VLAN.
Ooh.
By then it was 2 a.m. What a perfect moment to call the on-site network admin to find out where this IP address was supposed to be configured.
I suppose that person was on call as well?
Well, yes, there was a network team member on call for network things, and we have an IP address. We need somebody to log in to the core and look on which MAC address this is bound and then on which port it is.
Mm-hmm.
So we phone a very slightly upset, why can't this wait until tomorrow discussion again, person of network. Say, hey, this and this is, can you look for this IP address? Okay, he did so, fine. He logs into the core. It's on this main switch, it's on this edge switch, and it's on the third floor in the second cabinet. It's on switch number 3. Do you need me for now? For now, no, but stay awake. Okay?
Oh, those joyous words when you're on call.
Yes, indeed. You can risk going to bed, but we can wake you up again.
Yeah.
I take the guy from local support with me. You know where this cabinet is, I hope. Let's go and have a look. Fine. We find the cabinet, we find the switch, we find the port. And yep, indeed, well, there is no link and no activity on this port. Well, this could as well be it. Follow the patch cable, because of course nothing was labeled or numbered.
Of course.
Well, back then, you can-do mentality did not expect you to do that.
Yeah, but let's be honest. The majority of companies today still use that same principle under different mentality.
Oh yeah, I've seen until now maybe one customer that was extremely rigid on labeling every network cable and also using identifiable colors per service.
Ooh, that's
Indeed.
Wow.
And going on a sidetrack for a bit, we've had a case where we say, okay, you need to reboot the access points or one access point in the building. You don't know which one it is. You know what? Unplug all the yellow cables and plug them back in. Those are the access points. And you can tell this to someone without any IT knowledge. Just unplug them, count to 3, plug them back in. And that will reset your entire wireless thing. That will reset your printers. That will reset any power over Ethernet device and reboot it without you even need to know remotely what you're doing.
This podcast features Jack Smith and guests. We say thank you to our demo scene friends who helped making this podcast possible. Commander Homer for editing, Danko for music and audio advice, NetPoet for additional voiceovers.
Yeah,
That's all.
it seems a simple instruction, but honestly, from my perspective, it's also fraught with danger.
Oh, of course.
Just maybe a tangent on a tangent. I gave that instruction once. I didn't. I forgot to specify that they needed to plug the cable back in the same hole that they pulled it out of. That was not a pleasant weekend.
I'm taking notes that you can fail successfully.
Yes, indeed. They were all restarted. None of them worked.
Ouch.
Yes.
That's a fun Saturday morning that you're having then.
Mm-hmm.
Let's go back to our third floor cabinet. Okay, fine. It goes into port number 7. Okay, where does port number 7 come out? Well, somewhere on this floor, because of course there is no map. Go through it. Port number 7 ends up being in the office of the director of the division that was responsible for the warehouse and its application.
Why is it always an office of a director? Or a VP or something like that?
If somebody wants to do a PhD on those, feel free to interview me. My guess would be is that they assume that they know what they're doing, or in the end they're signing off and then they say, "Oh well, we'll just do it here." I don't know, but it's a valid, good question. Good question. So good, we find port number 7, and yippee-ki-yay, there's a cable plugged into it. You follow the cable, literally, you follow the cable down the wire, under the carpet, under the desk, and the cable disappears into a drawer. Every cliche is happening.
Oh.
Open the drawer, it was not locked, so we didn't need a crowbar. And in there is, drumroll, a laptop.
Of course, it's a laptop.
Of course, it's a laptop. And it's in sleep mode, because there's a battery error blinking. Do we have a power supply? Yeah, we might have one in the spare parts stock. Okay, please go and get a power supply for this thing. Guy goes down, guy comes back up, plug it in, plug in the laptop, give it a few minutes to
Get his bearings.
get the battery going. You push the power button, BIOS comes up, resuming Windows. And literally, in an undescribable way of explaining it, the entire building went broomf.
It's a good feeling when that happens.
It's a good feeling, although you hope that nobody was standing near a conveyor belt when they started.
True. But yeah, that's where health and safety procedures come into place. Huh?
It's the nillies.
I know. They were in place. I didn't say anybody followed them, but they were in place.
Yeah, fair enough. You would have some meetings with health and safety and unions and reports, and they would make many reports and have very good intentions. But yes, implementation is...
But even back in the day, they were part of the ISO certification.
True. That was a thing that would have been in there. The laptop comes up. It's locked with the user of the director, which we don't really have. But okay, what can we do? Shall we? Well, everything is running. Do we leave it at this, or what do we do? Okay, well, do we investigate further? Do we consider everything's fixed, and do we take the risk of going back to bed? So no. We called the CIO. That was at 3:30 in the morning. Like, hey, we found this. Please advise. What do we do? Oh no. Log in, see that everything is running. So we reset the password in the security database. We unlock the laptop. We see, yes, indeed, there was an application running in the foreground, not even as a service, in the foreground. The laptop was set, close lid, do nothing, and put in a drawer. And for some reason, the power supply was not there. Was it taken out or unplugged? Did somebody take it? Were they hopeful that it would last the entire night? Don't know. At the moment, I didn't care. Validate everything was running. Stayed until 5 in the morning. Okay. Most of operations was done. The trucks were being loaded. Everything was more or less under control. And then you write an email to your colleagues. Hi, I've had a thing last night. I'm not coming into the office today because this is your 5:30 a.m. mail. So you know something went poof last night. That was the operational part. Few days later, in the office as normally, and the CIO walks in and he gives our team lead a small white piece of paper.
Ooh, the dreaded white.
The dreaded little white paper. And for those not in the knowing or have never been there, that usually means on that paper is a username and says disable this now because HR is talking to this person.
Yeah.
And that was the name of that director whose laptop I found that night.
Yeah, which is completely understandable. People, whatever you do, if you have something running in production, make sure it's on production hardware. And a laptop is not production hardware.
No, and then should you ever need to give it power?
Yeah, but still.
Still, yeah, don't.
Look,
don't.
It's completely acceptable to run it as a pilot. It's completely, it's even acceptable to run it as a proof of concept, as a mirror of the current system. But once you're actually going into the direction of production and actually using it or benchmarking it, run it on the proper hardware. I know it's an inconvenience. I know having your own desktop or laptop running stuff is so much simpler for all the wrong reasons. It's exactly those wrong reasons why you don't do that.
Don't miss an episode. Subscribe now on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, YouTube, and more. Support us by leaving a like or a review. You can always find more at ithorrorstories.eu, and we're just an email away at hello@ithorrorstories.eu.
And should you run this as a proof of concept somewhere, even not on a live machine, but in a test environment or acceptance environment to see, hey, let's run it for a night and see what gives, inform your operational teams that you have adapted, because they did update the monitoring page that it went to, because when we came back, everything was green in mission control. So they did update the monitoring system and the management system, but they didn't tell them, hey, this is now pointing to a different machine.
Yeah, fair enough, but then it's no longer proof of concept.
Some things are eternal proof of concept, and you go from a thought experiment to a pilot to a proof of concept to go live. You can do this in under a week.
Yeah, of course, and there is no fix that is as permanent as a working temporary fix. I'm aware of that. But still, it's not what you should do.
Well, as half the episodes of this podcast is what you do versus what you should do.
Only half.
Yeah, fair enough. Let's see, because we had episode 6, SAP, episode 7, Y2K. Those are just documental and analytical.
Yeah, fair enough.
For the rest...
But even in those analytical episodes, there's usually a part, people were doing this is not what you should do. You should do it like that.
Yeah, well, yeah, the Y2K could go under that umbrella. I stand corrected.
And SAP, honestly, the jury is still out whether the entire system doesn't fall under that umbrella.
I am not in the SAP pay scale.
No.
I'm not going there. But if somebody wants me as an SAP consultant at SAP rates, feel free to contact me at hello@ithorrorstories.eu and we can talk.
I've got experience with SAP, but the experience I got is not the best experience, let's say it like that. It's exactly the best example of why I'm a firm believer in adopt over adapt.
I can see how that makes sense in an SAP world. In the end, we were out of one DevOps director or DevOps section director. I forgot because it's the Nillies and things were strange. I blame the Spice Girls.
I don't think they had DevOps directors in the early Nillies.
No, it was...
most likely development director.
It was called Director of Development or Operational Director for Warehousing. Or
yeah, something like that.
Something like that. We use naming conventions that didn't exist back then. The application was then moved over to our server, I think, in the week following. And when I left the place, it was still running perfectly fine. Just, why or for whatever reason, this was then put on this laptop. Who knows? I don't think the question will ever be answered, but as you said, the point remains valid. Never ever do this because the impact that you will generate is humongous.
And honestly, just as a general warning for everybody there, once the business impact is higher than your monthly salary or annual salary, your days are numbered.
That's actually a good comparison as to how quickly does the trebuchet gets rolled out
Yeah.
to say our goodbyes.
If the impact is in the range of your monthly salary, it might be forgiven.
You get a slap on the wrist.
Yeah, once or two times it will be forgiven. Three times, no more. Once the impact becomes in terms of your annual salary, there are very little people who ever come back from that. There are, but those are extremely valuable people.
Then you're really good.
Yeah.
Or you can, through the umbrella system, repoint responsibility to somebody else.
Fair enough. Through the umbrella system, or you're there as a part of a nepotism exercise. All of those things are true as well.
Blame the external consultant.
Yeah, that's the umbrella system as well.
Fair enough.
That's one of the reasons why those higher up always have at least one external consultant running around.
Everyone listening, I hope you learned something. I hope you learned what not to do. And maybe you can come to the conclusion what you need to do the next time. So with this, let's just conclude the episode. Bob, thank you for joining again. Always a pleasure to have you and your opinion and input here.
Always a pleasure to be here.
This was IT Horror Stories with Jack Smith. You can find us on Spotify, Apple Music, YouTube, Deezer, and wherever you get your podcast. New episodes at least once a month. We have merchandise, shop.ithorrorstories.eu, or support us via Ko-fi. Any social media fans, we have Instagram, TikTok, Facebook, LinkedIn, Blue Sky, and Mastodon. Any further information, links, and contact pages on our website, ithorrorstories.eu. Thanks for tuning in. Until the next time, and don't forget, you are one of us. Bye-bye.
Cheers. Bye-bye.
The content of this podcast is intended for entertainment purposes only and is meant to humorously explore various tech-related situations. Any resemblance to actual events or real persons, living or dead, is purely coincidental. We ridicule situations, never individuals or groups. Listener discretion is advised, and we encourage everyone to approach technology with a sense of humor and an open mind.